Shalom Aleichem Rabbi Tzai. This is Rabbi Yehuda Levin, and the program is the Fear Kashas, heard each and every Wednesday evening. Now, this is a new note for the next couple of weeks. It seems that our program is being moved to 8 o'clock. So that's 8 p.m. each and every Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. or thereabouts. Just to be safe, I would start listening 3 or 4 minutes before. Please spread the word. For those who wish, they may see archived programs if they have a header for the internet on the Fear, F-E-A-R, Kashas, K-A-S-H-E-S .com. Rabbi Say, first, some business, just an update on the Ger situation. The day after this is the Chayesora edition, Tafshin Ayin Beis of the program. 13 power-packed minutes with the Hashkafa of the Gedolei Torah of Yesti and no spin. 2 weeks ago, I spoke about the atrocities perpetrated by the Ger Hasidim on people, and I just want to give you an update. The very next day, I saw the Ated Neman and Rabbi Pinchas Lipschitz in his editorial, without referring by name to the Gera, but he did speak about the fact that that people have started resorting to violence. And that was obviously an allusion to Ger, and that was as much as he felt he was capable of doing, but it's certainly a lot more than many others did. Excuse me. Forgive me. Let me just say that that there has been some developments. I understand that the Badats actually had a Kol Koire that was printed and put up in the Orthodox, ultra-Orthodox communities, Meah Shearim, etc. And it was signed by Rav Tuvia Weiss, and although I haven't seen an exact copy, and I don't think it mentioned the word Ger, but it mentioned the two people by name who were beaten up by the Gera. Could be their names are Hirschman and Rust. And basically, either in the text or in a conversation that Rabbi Weiss, according to reports, had with some Ger Hasidim who were approaching him not to put up these pashkvilim, he threatened that if this happens again, he will make such a tumult even in the Golus, in other words, even in Chutz La'aretz, that it would be unbelievable. And it seems, according to reports, that this fellow Rust, who may not be a tzaddik, that's not the point, felt it safe to go out in the street again because of this. So, kol hakavod to the Badatzin of Tuvia Weiss for showing some sort of a mecha and some sort of control. Another note that I wish to make reference to is that last week I spoke about Rav Hillel Litvak, who has been a one-man campaign in the army about the problems with many shavers. And they've started to rectify it in Eretz Yisrael, where they have shavers that don't shave as close. So many people don't like it so much, but they have a hechsher from leading Gedolei Yisrael. And I just want to give another Yasher Koyach to Rabbi Litvak and say that it appears to be he's noitel schar keneged kulam. In other words, there are shortcuts in Ruchnius today as well. When somebody involves himself or herself in something that almost nobody else is doing, so they get schar keneged kulam of all those who don't do, and that would definitely apply to Rabbi Litvak, and we thank him again for what he's doing, and we urge B'nai Torah to look into the situation with the shavers, and of course we reference the fact that the 4 Rosh Yeshiva of Lakewood signed that Kol Torah. You know, this Yesoid that we mentioned when speaking 2 weeks ago about the beatings up in Meah Shearim, we mentioned that Meir Giuliani Chochma Bagoyim Taimen, and we're no fan of Meir Giuliani when it comes to morality, but basically Giuliani taught us a big Yesoid. The Yesoid is that when you take care of small quality of life crimes or trespasses or transgressions, this prevents the worst kind from occurring. And there is a cause and effect. One thing leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing, in an ever-spiraling ladder. There was an article that I saw out of Eretz Yisrael about women's wigs, that more and more Haredi women are getting women's wigs like various Hollywood stars. And that if you go to certain shtetl places, I assume this is in Israel, they actually have pictures of the stars hanging, and the women choose to have their sheitlach made as close to the hairstyles of the stars. Um, we've discussed this thing in the past many times, and the fact of the matter is that there is no Gadol b'Yisrael. There is no Gadol who sanctions, who certifies those long sheitlach that go down the back and that come around the front and go down past the shoulders down, and that look very, very much like hair, that it's almost not possible to tell the difference, or it's not possible to tell the difference. And people are not going to like this, but you want to know something? Tough luck. Uh, we don't like the fact that many Haredi men, have to be assaulted by these kinds of sheitlach bobbing all over the place. So when Rav Ovadia Yosef was told that a certain relative or something was wearing a sheitel or a type of sheitel that he felt was inappropriate, he's reputed to have said, "There's enough place in Gehenna for everyone." Ooh, how could he talk like this? I'm insulted. I mean, this is not a game. This is not a game. The tznius problem is major league stuff, and this is not a game. And I'll explain to you quality of life, or what this kind of thing leads to. But first, let me switch back to the beatings up. Again, for those who have a head of the internet, you could mamish see this stuff of how they went on the internet, of how they went to this Avram Hirschman's house. And there's video footage of it, and you mamish see the house is on fire. They busted in, and the house is literally on fire. They spilled petrol, they spilled gas all over the place. According to the reports, I don't know if I accept this, they actually spilled gasoline on a baby and the mother. And Baruch Hashem, they managed to escape with their lives. This was months ago, before the father was beaten up, which was a few weeks ago. But this is craziness, and this came from Ger. So this is not a single incident. Now, the TV in Israel covered this, and a guy, we have to give him cover. He speaks with our confidence and assertiveness and aggressiveness. So we have to give him credit for the very intelligent, ruchniistic things he said. His name is Tzvi Bialastotsky. That's how his name was spelled. And he says, that's right, Hirschman went and he stole the house in Batei Varsha from somebody else whose grandfather even had it, and he drove him out and he took all his stuff. So therefore, they were mishtalet, they ruled, and now we're going to be mishtalet, we're going to rule. In other words, in Tzvi Bialastotsky's Yiddishkeit, two wrongs make a right. Two wrongs make a right. And if Hirschman is a brigand or whatever he is, this now says that you go with iron bars or with gasoline. This is what you go with. The worst kind of garbage. The kitrug is oyim v'noira. I'm out the third, an idiot. And if I was a gera, I would be embarrassed not to separate myself from this kind of talk. And it's all there. He put it out on TV for everyone, for all the secularists in Israel to see, and others. Now we'll be mishtalet. Mamish, I'm sure that the Sfas Emes and the Chiddushei HaRim would be very, very proud of this. Yep, this is Givaldic. I'm sure. Mamish, sickening. Now, in the EU, they recently had a meeting with the CER, the Conference or Congress of European Rabbis. Some 200 Rabbanim met from all over with the support of Gedolei Eretz Yisrael. One of the things on the agenda is they're getting closer and closer in different countries to asering bris milah. And therefore, the CER is going to flex their political muscle, and they're going to do everything possible with a special division to start fighting to preserve milah. It's very, very admirable. But maybe the CER should understand, because they're Rabbanim, they should understand the hashkafa of cause and effect, of quality of life, the Ruli Giuliani Yisoid. If you don't deal with the small things, you get into the big things. Whether or not they could succeed, and they could have succeeded, where were these rabbanim from all over Europe who, in the pieces about them, they boast about the fact that they have such connections with some of the very top leaders, literally, of the various countries in Europe? Where were they when each country is facing their schmutz and their garbage with the homosexualization of society, which is Amalek, and other things? They say, oh, we can't have an impact, we can't have an effect. But you can't say those things, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He doesn't require that you have an impact, that you win. He requires that you stand up and show you're against it, to be an Or La'amim, to be Makadeshim Shemayim. So in the anti-Mila movement, where you shut your mouths and you kept quiet, so now, is it any wonder that Mila is being threatened? I explained this was the same thing like in San Francisco. So yes, temporarily in California, they now passed a law that would prevent this kind of legislation from happening again so easily. But, people who are smart can wake up and smell the coffee. This is now a worldwide movement. Yes, recently they published an article published by that great Agudist writer and leader who I referred to before, who had an op-ed piece in the Daily News, and it was reprinted. It really didn't deal. It really doesn't show the Chatzkel Bennett. It really doesn't show a deep understanding. Chatzkel and all the great Askonim who are fighting the intactists, those who want to keep the foreskin intact. If you're not going to speak out constantly and consistently against the schmutz, against the homosexualization of society, if this is not going to be a top item of Shmiras Habris, of Kedusha, if there's not going to be speaking out against all of the other anti-Kedushas Habris things, such as the lack of tznius in the Haredi community, such as the Geferlich HaSheiklach going worse to worse, then I'm afraid to say that we're going to continue to have bigger and bigger problems. Hashem is sending us signals. I'm sorry to say this, and maybe I'll upset a lot of people, but there are rumors of horrible acts of arayas in various Haredi communities, and one of them is in the young community of Marine Park, where Pashit, the scariness of this is, and I don't want to get into it, but the scariness is that there could be serious situations, shilas of mamzerus, if you don't start, if the rabbonim and the leaders just want to be popular and don't want to offend, and etc., and they don't want to step up to the plate on all of these issues, chas v'shalom, what's going to happen? This is Rabbi Yehuda Levin, a guten Tamid.